Hey, everybody. How's it going? Hope everybody's having a good afternoon. Things are going well on this end. Got an interesting live, kind of just more updates about stuff we've been talking about already, some things that I forgot to cover in other videos, and just all around, just kind of seeing what's going on with you guys as well. Let's see here. Hello, Joseph. Hello, Kathy. Hello, Jennifer. Hello, Sherry. Hello, Paulette and Marla and Pam. Good to see you guys. I hope y'all are doing well. I hope y'all are having a good afternoon. It's nice to see y'all. All right, so I want to start off today, and we probably could have a panelist or two pop in today. I don't know exactly when they'll be here, but we were ready to go at this alone if we had to, anyways. But as I've been saying on other channels, I really think this whole Russia, nuclear threat, Ukraine, all this stuff that's been going on is a distraction. I don't think it's just a distraction. I think it's a way for them to launder money and things like that. Like the United States has been doing. We know they've been doing that, like for a fact. We know there's a lot of laboratories and things like that they've been doing a lot of shady, fishy stuff in the Ukraine, and even the Ukraine goes way back to some of the beginnings of the modern day satanic movement, where you have like the House of Theosophy, which is not to be confused with theology, okay? But the House of Theosophy, Madame Blavatsky, she actually came out of Ukraine. All right, so there is some, and I think that Abramovich woman, that's she's pretty influential in the elitist movement and all that stuff. I think she's out of Ukraine, and I think she's actually part of Zelensky's cabinet. If I'm not mistaken. So there are some roots there that are definitely evil in this whole thing, and but I think the whole the Red Dawn, the Russians are coming, at this time. I'm not saying that it's not going to happen in the future, but I think at this time it's a little far fetched. You know what I mean? And I discussed my reasons why I believe that in the live I did earlier this morning, just kind of before I went to church. I kind of got into that, where I was like, uh, God's people are not to be judged or punished with the wicked, and even Abraham, when he was talking to the Lord, he says, "It'd be far from you, Lord, to judge the righteous with the wicked." And so, there we might be living in a wicked nation. We might be going through some evil days, some dark days, but it's far from God to judge the righteous with the wicked. And that's why I think that these like kind of bigger events where you're going to see like a nuclear holocaust or something of the sort happen, it's going to happen after a pre-tribulation rapture. I absolutely believe that. Hello, Lizzie B. Hello, Mark. Good to see you guys. Marjorie, good to see you. Mervin, good to see you. Nightlev, hey brother Nightlev, it's good to see you, my friend. Hey sister Sherry, good to see you. Hey Sapphire Snowflakes, good to see you, sister. Fred Deo, my moderator, my brother from another mother. Good to see you, Fred. Hey Saint JPM, Gregory Young, good to see y'all. But yeah, so anyways, as I've been saying, I think it's a distraction, honestly, and in something that I've stated in the past. And I mean, I said this months ago. I said, I think at the very end of this thing, Zelensky and Putin are just going to shake hands and agree to join forces, and it's going to build up a one of these 10 kingdoms, that one of these 10 kings are going to take power over, towards the latter days, and getting into the great tribulation. These 10 kings that take power with the beast, that give their power over the beast in 1 hour and rule with him for a short period of time. I know that the Illuminati, like through my brother Dr. Marquis, that passed away, but in the 70s, he got out of the Illuminati, and he ended up joining our forces. He said, he's like, I walked into church a sold out slave of Satan that day, and he says, I walked out a born again child of the King, man. And what an amazing God we serve, that can bring someone back from such a lifestyle as being an Illuminist, or a Satanist, a Luciferian. And it can happen. You can't sell your soul to the devil, because it's not his to buy. You know what I mean? So I'll tell you. But anyways, So he showed me a map a long time ago where the Illuminati had outlined 10 kingdoms. And back in the day, I mean, this must have been 2012, 2013, something like that. I had asked him, I said, brother, what's the next thing on the Illuminati's to-do list? And he said, you're going to see a war between Russia and Ukraine. And he said, you're going to see a global currency begin to form. He said that's the next thing on the Illuminati's to-do list. And like I said, this was way back when, it's over 10 years ago. He said this to me, and boy, oh boy, is that happening now. They're fastly moving towards that global currency, that CBDC, central bank digital currency, and we are, seeing this scuffle between Russia and Ukraine be a thing. And that actually started 4 days after the Olympics, after the Beijing Winter Olympics, which was relatively interesting because Putin and Xi Jinping were the only leaders at the time, that were at the Olympics. You know what I mean? Like during this whole thing that was happening, and there's even news clips that you can go find. I ain't got them here for you today, but there's news clips you can go find where Putin and Xi Jinping met before the Olympics and agreed to help each other in their military and political endeavors. And I just knew, and I'll be honest with you, not many people know, but actually for a short period of time, I did have a smaller YouTube channel, and it just, I don't know, I was not living the way I was supposed to be. I felt guilty about it, but it doesn't mean that God wasn't using me nonetheless. But I wasn't where I was supposed to be, and I'm not going to lie here. I was smoking pot at the time, and I'm like, I got to shut this down until I get sober. So I did. That's exactly what I did. But at that time, I had been calling out to people and saying, hey, Putin's going to invade Ukraine. It's going to happen. And I said, right after the Olympics, it's going to happen, because I remembered what my brother Doc Marquis had shared with me. And I remembered, that, Putin and him had met, Xi Jinping, and had met and agreed to kind of help each other in their endeavors during the Beijing Olympics. And so I knew, I'm like, this is going to be a thing. This is going to be a thing. And I was telling my wife, I'm like, they're going to invade. They're going to invade. 4 days after the Olympics, they invaded. And ever since the 4 days after the Beijing Winter Olympics, we've had this little thing going back and forth between Ukraine and Russia. And I'll tell you right now, and I'm going to be honest with you, I have heard 1,000 million times, which would be a billion. All right. But I'm saying it sarcastically, that, we've crossed the red line, and, the Putin's hand is on the nuclear button, and, the Satan 2 missile this and the Satan 2 missile that, and, all this different stuff. And I'm not saying that it's not in the plans of the Illuminati to eventually, or not in the plans of the enemy to eventually attack America with nukes. I'm not saying that it's not even God's plan to allow that kind of thing to happen on American soil. But I refuse to believe, I do not think that it's going to happen before we go home to be with Jesus in the pre-tribulation rapture. So I think that everybody can be encouraged by that. I don't think there's anything negative about that sort of thinking, to know that God does not judge the righteous with the wicked. And I'm telling you, and just even looking at you people, there are too many righteous people. There are too many God-fearing, God-loving, God-worshiping people that love Jesus Christ with all their heart, mind, body, and soul here on this soil in the United States of America, for God to judge this land, for him to bundle us all together in that form. Okay, and just all of a sudden, allow these nukes to fly and smite us with this. Okay, so that's my take on it. But I did state, I said, eventually they're just going to shake hands and they're just going to agree to merge together. Now, in light of that, everybody knows about Jason A. And he released a video just the other day, pertaining to what's going on in Damascus, Syria, which is another thing. We've talked about Joel 3. We've talked about Jeremiah 47. We've talked about the burden of Damascus prophecy, and how there's even in Jeremiah, I think it's 40 in 48 or 49, one of the chapters there, where it's talking about Damascus also being destroyed. You know what I mean? Damascus is one of the oldest cities on the planet, and it has never been destroyed before. We know that this is a latter days prophecy, okay? And I'll tell you right now, I don't know if you guys have ever gone to like YouTube and looked up, this whole thing with Syria, and looked at the devastation that's already taken place in Damascus. I mean, there's a whole chunk of that place that is already gone, and I mean, it is absolute rubble. And it's like as if a nuclear blast went off, but it's just from all these different bombings and explosions and things like that have taken place during the rebel in the Syrian forces fighting. You know what I mean? But nonetheless, on that video, all right, I actually was watching it, and there was a clip that popped up, and I'm like, dude, that is exactly what I have been saying for these past few months, that Russia and Ukraine is a distraction. And I think this clip proves it. And after I show this clip, I'm going to say hi to my brother Aaron and see how he's doing. Check this real quick clip out.
We begin this hour with breaking news. Volodymyr Zelensky has suggested that he's prepared to give up some parts of Ukraine to Russia for the time being, so long as there is a ceasefire and his country is given NATO membership.
Yeah, and see, like the whole NATO membership thing at the end there, I don't even think that's a thing. I think that in the beginning of it, Ukraine would have joined NATO if they really were gonna. It is the Illuminati plan to merge with Russia. What do you think of that, Aaron?
Whoa! I walked into a gamut of information, and it looks like you started about 10 minutes ago, eh?
Just a little bit ago, yeah, something like that.
Right,
But we've been talking about this, and so.
Well, good to see everybody. Hey,
we're
one day closer. Good to see you, Josh. What did I miss? Maybe give me a summary of what you just mentioned and all that. And
well, I was talking about how I just really feel that this Russia-Ukraine stuff is a distraction. We were talking about how the Illuminati has mapped out 10 kingdoms, and it aligns with what Bible prophecy says, that there'll be 10 kingdoms, 10 kings that take power and give their power over to the Antichrist and rule and reign with him for 1 hour. It's obviously the Great Tribulation, and that there needs to be these 10 kingdoms. There needs to be a working towards this 10 kingdom world order. That's, I believe, is the new world order that will be given over to the Antichrist. It'll just be handed to him, and it's being built as we speak. And I know from the Illuminati maps that my brother, who is ex-Illuminati, showed me, and he showed me a map where he proved to me that Russia, Ukraine, and even Poland would eventually merge with Russia. And so I've kind of felt from the beginning of this thing that it's maybe not distraction, but working towards that. But all of this, the Russians are coming, nukes are going to fall, all this stuff, that it's distraction. And then the fact that it is far from God to judge the righteous with the wicked. And there are too many God-fearing Christians on this land in America for God to just say, boom, 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 here's some nukes for you, and allow that something to happen. And not even that, but the fallout would be hitting Canada, would probably hit Mexico a little bit as well. And there's too many God-fearing people in Canada and Mexico as well for something like that to happen. What's your take, brother?
Well, I have a question for you about the 10 horns. And so some people are thinking it might be BRICS. Some people are thinking it might be G7. But do you have a different take on who the 10 kings might be?
I do actually. I think what we're going to see here, and I think it's going to kind of come down to over the Middle East. I think that's the real thing that's going on there, and I have documentation to be able to prove that. But if we go back to King Nebuchadnezzar and we see a statue that Nebuchadnezzar had seen, we know that Daniel, communed with God. God gave him the interpretation of the dream and what the dream was. And he said that the head of gold was Babylon, and then you had the arms and chest of silver, which was the Medes and the Persians. Then you had the midsection of brass, which was Greece. Then you had the 2 legs of iron, which were Rome, east and west, which is very key. Okay, east and west. And then it came out into kind of 2 feet that are mixed with iron and miry clay. Now, I look at that in 2 different ways. I look at transhumanism, where they're trying to merge biotech and things like that with human flesh, implantable chips, the Neuralink, things like this, you know what I mean? But also what's interesting is, and not a lot of people look at this, is that clay can represent democracy and iron can represent communism. The Iron Curtain of communism. Okay, so I think that it's 2 things that won't adhere to one another. Whether it's the technology not being able to adhere to human flesh, or whether it be democracy and communism not being able to adhere to one another. I believe that there's 2 feet, but remember, there's 2 heels, 2 feet before there's 10 toes. All right. And I think that this is NATO and BRICS. Okay. NATO is democratic. BRICS is obviously communist. If you look at the majority of the nations that are involved in BRICS, a majority of them are more towards communism than they are democracy. And so I think that there's going to be this clash that leads to 10 kingdoms, and that's just my take.
Okay. Okay. So maybe what you would be looking for is a world power that's got 5 nations for the communism, and a world power that's got 5 nations for
no, sir.
No.
No, sir. So communism being one foot, democracy being the other, clash, and a new order is formed that comes into 10 toes, which is 10 kings.
Okay.
So it's going to be a new world order that's going to emerge out of this battle between communism and democracy, but it's kind of like a false battle, ultimately leading to the same goal. If you can follow me there.
Yeah, I mean, I got my Bible right here. That passage is Daniel 2, correct? That you're talking about.
I'm pretty sure. Not exact though.
Yes. So Daniel 2. Let's go from 43.
Yeah.
As you saw iron mix with ceramic clay, they will mingle with the seed of men. I think that's a really important thing to.
That could be the technology. You know what I mean? Being
Mhm.
merged and mingling with the seed of men. The seed being the flesh.
Yeah, but they will not adhere to one another,
Right.
just as iron does not mix with clay. And in the days of these kings, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed. This is the encouraging part. And
Yeah.
the kingdom shall not be left to other people. It shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. Inasmuch
Amen.
as you saw that stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, and that it broke in pieces the iron, the bronze, the clay, the silver, and the gold, the great God has made known to the king what will come to pass after this. The dream is certain, and its interpretation is sure. And not to derail from the conversation right here, but the next couple of verses in that passage is actually another pattern of a rapture.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the encouraging part that I've been also trying to say is that the nukes aren't going to fall before we go home. You know what I mean? We have to go home before, I think, even the 10 kings begin to form. I just think we're right at the cusp of this thing happening. There's 10 kingdoms. There's 10 kings that are going to arise. I think a few of these candidates, like Justin Trudeau, maybe Obama, Prince, what's the dude's name? I mean, I could care less, but what's the dude's name?
The MBS guy?
No, the guy over his mom just died, Queen of England. Prince Charles. Prince Charles, and then there was a guy of the Netherlands that just took power. It's like King Edward the 10th or something like that. I forgot his name, but his mom just stepped down and gave him rule in the Netherlands. Emmanuel Macron. There's all sorts of different candidates. Jared Kushner, all these things. A lot of people are saying, oh, these people could be the Antichrist, but there's never any talk about the 10 kings and who the 10 kings are. And I think that that's something that kind of emerges right before the revealing of the Antichrist. And I think that would happen right after the great or the pre-tribulation rapture. These 10 kings would kind of come out of the woodworks. And so I think that those are a little more interesting to me than even who the Antichrist would be,
Mm-hmm.
So there's lots of candidates out there for sure.
I was thinking that just a funny thing, like in terms of the statue, the rapture is like somebody twisting their ankle. The rapture happens at the ankle of this statue, I'd say. When
there you go. It hits them feet. Boom.
Yeah. When you twist your ankle, it hurts for a while. I think we're out of here at that ankle part.
Amen.
So,
we're
but
right
I wanted
there,
to read.
Man.
I wanted to read the next couple of verses.
Yeah.
I should have just kept reading. Just 46 through 49, just 4 verses. So after Daniel gives this interpretation of the dream of the statue, this is a type and shadow. This is a pattern of the rapture. And it says here in 46, then King Nebuchadnezzar fell on his face, prostrate before Daniel, and commanded that they should present an offering and incense to him. The king answered Daniel and said, truly, your God is the God of gods, the Lord of kings, and a revealer of secrets, since you could reveal the secret. Then the king promoted Daniel and gave him many great gifts and province of Babylon, and chief minister over all the wise men of Babylon. Also Daniel petitioned the king, and he set Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego over the affairs of the province of Babylon. But Daniel sat in the gate of the king. So here is a pattern of Daniel sitting in the gate of the king, elevated above everybody else.
Yep.
After he was a representation of revealing a dream to Nebuchadnezzar. And so we are also going to be sitting, just like Daniel did, in the gates of the real king of kings.
Amen.
Before the next chapter, though, is the chapter about them worshiping the king, making a big statue for them to worship, in which his three amigos said no, thank you, and they were thrown into the furnace. But Daniel wasn't there. Daniel wasn't part of that whole.
Which is a picture of the tribulation and not wanting to bow down to the abomination of desolation.
That's right. Yeah. So
that's brilliant, man. I love it, dude. I love it, man.
It's nuts.
This is why we have God a Minute on. This is why.
I like live stream. I like socializing with other people, because sometimes you're on a video and like, what do people want me to say? I don't know. So you feed off of other people. We actually just finished reading the book of Daniel in our study the other day, so it's fresh in my mind. And like the whole book really is about, are you going to worship God, or are you going to worship an idol? Like that's really what it boils down to in the book of Daniel, because they were asked to worship this statue in Daniel 3. And then in Daniel 6, it was a similar theme to go against Daniel. It was the governors came against Daniel, and they wanted him to not pray to the God of Israel. And Daniel said, oh, no, I'm going to continue to pray to the God of Israel no matter what. And he did that.
Amen.
And his faith was tested.
Yeah.
And so he went to the Daniel and the lion's den. Most people know that story, but the lions didn't eat him. And then
but there was a testing of faith that came. You know what I mean? And that's, maybe that has to do with that great tribulation testing of their faith. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But, again, the point is in Daniel 3 was, are you going to worship the idol or not? Daniel 6 was, you going to pray to the God of Israel or not? And then we've got Daniel 8, which is focused on Antiochus Epiphanes, who set up an abomination of desolation in the temple. Then there's Daniel 9, which is talking about a future abomination of desolation. Then there's Daniel 11, which reminds us of Antiochus Epiphanes, who set up the abomination of desolation in the temple. And then Jesus says in Matthew 24:15, he says, okay, an abomination of desolation, it's going to happen again. So refer to the book of Daniel, that kind of thing's going to happen again. The whole book is really themed on who are you going to worship? Who are you going to worship in the end, And
kind of like Elijah, if Mammon is God, follow him. If God is God, follow him. You know what I mean? Like you got to choose. There's no more riding the fence, people. No more riding the fence.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I love it, man. But like I was saying, not to change topics or anything like that, because I love talking about the word, but I really feel like what's going on right now with Russia and Ukraine is a big distraction. I think kind of what's happening with the election stuff is a big distraction. I'm going to say something. It's going to upset a lot of people. All right. We're going to go there today. There was a part of me, and this is a portion of me. This isn't all of everything. Okay. This is just kind of a side thought that I've thought before. But what if Trump was put in place the first time to pacify Republicans to submit under a lockdown? And what if it's happening again? That's something that's kind of been on my mind lately. What do you think of that, Aaron?
I think that every political person at this point in the game is a tool used by God for his purposes. And I think I've said it before in a live stream, where God uses Babylon to come and bring judgment on Israel, or Jerusalem, I should say. And he calls, if memory serves me correct, he calls Nebuchadnezzar an ox, or an axe, or maybe it was the Assyrian guy. One of them was called a hammer, and one of them was called an axe. In other words, he was calling them tools for his judgment. And it also says in Isaiah 44 and 45 that he chose Cyrus to be the guy to release them from captivity.
And to let them go back and build the temple. Yeah.
Exactly, but he wasn't even a Christian. He wasn't even like, at that time there was no such thing as a Christian, but you know what? He wasn't like a believer. He wasn't a Jew. He wasn't Israelite. He was just a guy. So in Isaiah 44 and 45, it says, I'm going to get a guy named Cyrus. It calls him by name. And I'm going to use this guy at the end of the 70 years to release them from captivity. So that's what God does. He uses people and he uses tools. And so anybody right now, if we're expecting the rapture to happen, you got to look at governments as instruments of God's tools, good or bad, for his purposes. So Trump, I don't know how to handle this guy other than I think he's a tool, and whichever way we go, like if the rapture is when as soon as we think it is, like nowish, then Trump's not going to be a good guy. Like if the rapture
I'll tell
happens,
you right now, God's going to use people to spite people regardless. So I get where you're coming from.
Yeah. So, I don't know what to say about that. It's going to be so interesting. Here's one interesting thing that I think is worth mentioning. That 60-day ceasefire. Did you hear about that in Israel?
Yeah. Didn't last
So
for
they got
60 days-ish.
Yeah, well, they got the 60-day thing, however that's going to work. But the interesting thing is they started that on November 24th, and it's in theory supposed to end January 23rd. So that's a few days after the inauguration. I find that to be really interesting how the timing of that all worked out.
Yeah.
America has a big part to play when it comes to how they interact with Israel and all those events that happen. So, and we know that the Bible the focus is Israel, Jerusalem.
Yep, Jerusalem, the cup of trembling, a burdensome stone to all nations.
That's right. So, yeah, what's your take on the Trump stuff?
It's a two-sided coin. When I voted for him, and I will say I didn't vote for him. I voted in hopes that there would be a chance at more freedom for Christians, that the murdering of children would stop, the mutilation of children would stop, the pedophilia would stop, that he would crack down on the trafficking of the children and even adults, crack down on illegal immigration, things like that. I kind of voted more for things to get done because I knew Kamala wasn't going to do it. And if you kind of are in that situation where you're voting for the lesser of two evils, it is what it is. I know that he's a womanizer, and that's a terrible thing. I really respect women. I was raised by women. I love my wife very much. Never laid a hand on her in any wrong way. You know what I mean? And for, a man that disrespects his family to the point where he's allowing a porn star to, and I mean, this is what I heard, and I'm sorry to be graphic here, but to spank him with what was it, Forbes, that had a picture of his family on the cover, rolled it up and spanked him with it, was what she had said that had happened, and he didn't deny it. I was a little bummed about that. I will say, though, that a lot of people that haven't read the Abraham Accords believe that the Abraham Accords is all about the division of Israel and the land and parting that land and giving a portion of it to the Palestinians. It actually says nothing about it. It actually has nothing to do with the Gaza Strip itself. It has to do with Saudi Arabia and Morocco and a couple other nations, but it has nothing to do with the Palestinians at all in the Abraham Accords. So I don't know where people are getting that from, and I don't know who's putting that out there. And I don't know why people aren't reading it for themselves, but I've read the whole entire document. It's only a 7-page document, but there are commentaries that span for hundreds and hundreds of pages. And I think that this might be where people might get mistaken, reading a commentary, thinking that it's the Abraham Accords, and it's not. So it's kind of interesting because he's done some good, like recognizing Jerusalem as the capital. You know what I mean? I do think that, that's, something that, is definitely helping to fulfill biblical prophecy. But like we were saying, God will use whoever. God used even King Nebuchadnezzar to do certain things, even though he was God was using King Nebuchadnezzar to throw Daniel in the lion's den, or to throw, Daniel's friends into the fiery furnace. But God used it to demonstrate his glory, demonstrate his power, so that way he could be magnified and glorified. Amen. You know what I mean? But nonetheless, there are some things, that I don't agree with, for sure. I see what's happening around me. I've talked to a lot of people recently about all this sickness stuff popping up, and I'm just finding out more and more and more. It's a little bit alarming, and I wonder, could we see another lockdown under Trump? You know what I mean? Because it partially happened the first time. Part of it was under his leadership, and it was allowed. And Anthony Fauci, that rat, was allowed to do what he did under Trump for a period of time. And we could look at warp speed and all the stuff that pertained to that. And it's a good thing. Go get it. Yes, go get it. It's good for your kids. Yeah, it's all right. I'm very proud of this. All this kind of stuff. It's just there's a lot. There's a lot, but I didn't want to see Kamala get in, man. I didn't want to see that at all. That's for sure. What's your take on it? I mean, do you have an opinion about it? I know you're in Canada, but Canadians matter too. You're our neighbors. Love thy brother, right? Love thy neighbor.
Okay, well, first of all, I don't really focus a whole lot personally on politics in general.
Good for you.
So that's step one. But step two, it's just a funny thing that people should know that Canadians are more aware of American politics than Canadian politics.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's just a funny, we kind of don't, even most of our TV programs, which I don't watch, but they're American based. A lot of them are
okay.
The average Canadian is an American wannabe. They basically watch American entertainment and they watch American politics.
I thought I was the Canadian wannabe, eh?
Yeah.
I love hockey, man. Love hockey. So
yeah, we don't know a whole lot about our own. Well, I mean, there's people that obviously care about Canadian politics, but I'm just, as a general broad brush for Canadian culture, generally we know more about American culture, politics, and entertainment than our own country.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but me personally, I don't spend a whole lot of effort on it. I'm just thinking, look, if the Rapture's around the corner, there's no good possible politician to be voting for, or to be thinking that somebody's going to make something great or change. And the thing is, too, even if somebody does make something great, it's going to be temporary anyway. It's a fleeting thing. And we also got to remind ourselves that the first thing that Jesus warned us about in Matthew 24 was deception. That was the first concept that he was trying to tell them. There's going to be deception. And so what's that verse? Let me go find it. People are going to say that there are false Christs and stuff like that. But the first things that Jesus said, Matthew 24, verse 4, and Jesus answered and said to them, "Take heed that no one deceives you."
Amen.
So he's like, Jesus' first address to the response of the many questions that they asked in Matthew 24 is deception. Yeah. Now reading on, "For many will come in my name, saying, I am the Christ, and will deceive many."
Amen.
And then it talks about wars and rumors of wars and famines and pestilences. But the first thing he says is deception. And Satan is the father of lies.
Absolutely.
And he's not coming in with a pitchfork and a big, gross looking, like he's disguised as an angel of light, right? He's deceptive. He's sneaky. A little truth, a little lie, a little bit of both columns of to deceive. I mean, he's the father of lies. He's the deceiver, and so he's going to do it in a very sly way. So Satan would use somebody that looks like a Christian and talks like a Christian and maybe references the Bible a little bit, put this guy in the government to deceive. That would be a natural thing that Satan would do. So
absolutely.
We have to put our deception goggles on with every type of government that's in place, especially right now if we anticipate that the rapture's around the corner.
We know that in the Great Tribulation, it talks about them being given over to strong delusion. So we know even prior to that, strong delusion exists behind the curtain. Kind of like the Wizard of Oz, like you mentioned. I mean, you have this big face and, I am the great and powerful Oz. But it's just this little guy, pulling levers and rotating stuff and pressing buttons and all that stuff. There's strong delusion everywhere about, and I'll be honest with you, a lot of it's online.
Yeah, and actually that strong delusion is really pointing people away from Christ. That's ultimately really what it is.
Yeah.
And like during the tribulation, especially too, there's going to be a big pull away from Christ, and the strong delusion is worshiping something else that is not Christ, which again brings us back to Daniel.
Yeah.
The strong delusion in Daniel was to worship a statue. I mean, that was a strong delusion. The strong delusion was to not pray to the God of Israel in Daniel chapter 6. That was a strong delusion, and so they will be faced with a strong delusion during the tribulation, and it's up to them to believe the lie or not.
Yeah.
So
I did talk to a buddy, and I am going to start to get into what the topic of today's video is, why I kind of even did this live, and I love talking about this stuff, though I could talk for hours about it. But I always have been kind of not bothered by when you watch a live and it has nothing to do with what it was labeled. You know what I mean? You ever had those lives?
Oh yeah, of course.
Just kind of goes off and all this other stuff. I'm not saying I'm gonna reel it back in, but I want to kind of share some stuff that I stumbled upon. So I have a buddy, from my life living kind of rough, and tough. And he's a tattoo artist, really well known, and he tattoos a lot of prominent people because he's really good at what he does. Just a really good artist. He paints and he does all sorts of stuff. But he was tattooing a doctor yesterday, and they usually have doctors that work for the hospital. Then there's a doctor that oversees that hospital, and then there's a doctor that oversees several hospitals. Well, this was the lady that oversaw several hospitals in my area, all right, not far from where I'm at, kind of in the grouping around me. She's this overseer of hospitals, and I was okay to share this information, but as he was tattooing her, he's asking her, he's like, so what about this, whooping cough or, walking pneumonia? It's kind of being called both, or the whooping cough that leads into a pneumonia, which has a lot of relation to what happened back in 2019, especially early 2019. I'm talking even back to July. Like I was even looking and I found a post from 2019, and it talked, this guy was at the hospital and on the 7th of July. And I think that's really interesting because I've got news clips that are talking about how this kind of exploded back in July and has kind of, continued to snowball and get worse and worse. But there's x-rays of this guy's chest. I wish I knew how to share my screen with everybody, but I mean, one whole side of his lung from this x-ray is completely white. You know what I mean? And then it goes back into that white lung syndrome that's been talked about. You know what I mean? But I will remind people that a lot of the same symptoms that we're seeing now was a lot of the same symptoms that we were seeing back then before the lockdown, before the first pandemic that we had. All right, when it came to 19, coding that. But my buddy had talked to this woman and she said, yeah, this is a whooping cough that's turning into a pneumonia. They're seeing a tremendous amount of hospitalizations in our area. And she's saying, like, this was her words, the hospitals are packed and the ER is swamped in every single hospital in our area. You know what I mean? And and this is interesting because they're not even reporting this, but she says there's a tremendous amount of the elderly people that are dying from this. All right. I don't know if it's because they got to the doctors too late or the way they were treated was misdiagnosed or whatever. But she said it's a tremendous amount of elderly people that are dying from this. And, so I wanted to share that, and then I also, my wife has a friend who is a school teacher, an elementary school teacher, and she said that there's an absolute uptick of this sickness in the schools. I got another buddy that lives a county over from me, and he's saying their school is completely full to the brim of this stuff and just keeps getting passed around. It goes away and it comes back. Hey, brother Derek, how's it going?
Hey, brother, what's going on? Hey, Aaron, how are you, brother?
Hey, Derek, what's going on, brother?
Not much.
Love this guy.
Thank you. I wanted to try to come on here. I don't have a lot of time. I got maybe 20 minutes, maybe 30 tops, but
That's all right.
I wanted to try to come spend a little time with you here because it's an interesting topic. Haven't really been able to catch the beginning of it because today has been really, really full for me. Like I said, I'm kind of squeezing this in between a couple other things, but I kind of know what you're talking about. And, like I said, it's an interesting topic. I mean, to be sure, I'll tell you my thoughts, just out
Yeah,
of the gate
please.
as to what's going on. I don't know if it ties into what you've been saying or not, but my thoughts on this thing is that, it's like deja vu all over again. And, we've already seen this screenplay play out once. And for me, it ties in with the new administration coming into Washington too, because, and I know sometimes I'm like the black pill. I hate to be, I don't want to be that guy that's like, wah, 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 but it's like, I just, I don't see it. It's like we're all hoping for the best. Every single one of us is hoping for the best. I think right now we're living in the time of reprieve and we need to enjoy it because I think things are going to get rough. And, it's like we all think of, the economy and how, Trump's going to turn it around and he's talking about tariffs and, and it's like, okay, well, and I mean, there's even, ideas floating around getting rid of the IRS. And I mean, everybody would cheer that on down here for sure, but what I say to myself is like, we have such a short memory span, and anybody that will remember that this is exactly what was going on before 2020. Trump had just slapped big tariffs on China, and so we spent many months not being able to talk about where this thing in 2020 actually came from. They were trying to gaslight us into thinking it was a natural thing, and then finally when somebody admits, yeah, it was actually from a lab in the country where we were slapping tariffs on, so I've got my reservations. I'm like, I wonder if we're going to see like version 2.0 and version 1.0 was certainly the training wheels, and now the training wheels are about to come off. That's
Yeah.
kind of where I'm at. And again, I don't want to be the black pill, and I'm just saying, those who fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it.
It,
And we can't have any illusions that Trump is going to come in and all the one worlders are just going to be like, okay, we lost, let's pick up our marbles and go home. He beat us, they're going to double down. I mean, so I think we should enjoy this reprieve while we've got it, but we should be watching and aware of what's going on and not let ourselves, fall into that trap of complacency. So that's kind of what's been on my heart when you talked about doing this kind of show,
Yeah. So what's interesting, and enough, what you were saying about that, a lot of people have been saying that and I'm going to say this backwards here, the trails of chem. Okay, we'll say that the trails of chem. All right, plays a factor into this, and I think that there is a substance that starts with a G, and it's a two-letter word, G and O. All right, that pertain to the stuff that's being dumped out of these over us, but not a lot of people are factoring in how surgically can be inserted, like what drones can do.
Right.
And I had some word from my buddy down in Louisiana, and he knows a couple of people, and through the grapevine is finding out that there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of drones, and I'm talking the big ones that China's producing right now. And it's like a big thing that they're doing right now is producing a lot of drones. And we saw, their whole balloon fiasco that they were doing, and that was a big, huge, obvious balloon, you know what I'm saying? But if China was to have a drone, you know what I mean, that could be recharged, like say by solar or, some other way, or have a long lasting battery life to be able to get it over here, they could do a lot of damage with drones, you know what I'm saying? And spread stuff with drones.
So what do you mean? What do you mean by drones spreading things? What are you getting at there?
So back when this whole triple E thing, this equine encephalitis or whatever, happened in like Massachusetts, which was something I was going to talk about. How there's kind of like a soft lockdown that had happened. Oh, at 5 p.m. everybody inside. You know what I mean? They're spoon feeding us what's coming. But actually, what I went and did some research, and I found out there is quite a few different locations for these, but there are mosquito farms. Okay. And what's interestingly enough, they are taking drones, all right, or they're taking mosquitoes, they're souping them up, with a triple letter, GM, you know what I mean, with the, the last one. They're souping these things up, and to be able to do stuff like this, you know what I mean, and get stuff into places where they couldn't normally do it. And they're actually used drone dispersion. Okay. And so if they can take a package of mosquitoes and take it out into the middle of wherever they want it, open it up, let them fly loose by drone, don't think they can't do something similar, like they would with the Kales or the Trails of Chem. You know what I'm saying? That they do with, like, say, like, up in the higher atmosphere with, these lines that we see in the sky. You know what I'm talking about? All right. And so I'm just saying, I think it's a heavy duty possibility that there's a new kind of warfare. And it's all about that new warfare, what you didn't see coming. You know what I mean? And so I know that they're mass producing these drones of China right now that have the ability to, disperse and deliver whatever they want, anything, and we know that they don't mind sending balloons over our airspace that are obvious, you know what I mean, that people can look at almost with the naked eye and see, so.
Well, and it's not all that new. That's the thing too about it is, we see it as new because it's kind of coming to light, but this is stuff that they've been out for years. I mean, and I didn't even realize, but if you do a little homework, and again, I'm going to be careful with what I say, so I'm not the one that gets your channel in trouble.
I want to point out what Hard Life said. He talks about a compound in his comment in the live section. I don't know if you guys see that.
I see
but
that.
I don't want to say it. I'll let him run with that for a moment, but that's what I'm talking about, what can be dispersed. You know what I mean?
Well, they were doing, I mean, not the same exact thing we're talking about, but like they've been experimenting with this stuff since after World War II. We think of the German scientists that came over here and Operation Paperclip, and were kind of drafted into NASA and the space agencies and rocket propulsion. They were also drafted into, biological warfare. I mean, there's a place off of Long Island, New York, and
Plum Island.
Yep, and they worked on biologically engineering ticks.
Yep.
Some have associated that with Lyme's disease. Now, I don't know, I can't, but I've heard that. So this is something they've been practicing for a while, and it's just the heart of man is wicked. Who can know it? It's like this stuff that they've got. I'm sure they thought well, this would be great to do against our enemies, but. Who's the enemy? It comes to the point where, we're just looked at as like the useless eaters. And, I don't know, like I think about my country when I was younger, I was a child of the 70s, and I think about it, back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, my parents' days, I know there was a lot of wicked stuff going on as far as warfare, but I don't really think that they saw the people as that big of a problem back then. And clearly that has changed. Clearly we have, we've got this class of people that, they're super wealthy, and they look upon everybody else as just kind of, like I said, the plebes, the useless eaters, or that's how we feel anyway. That's how we feel. So
I'm downloading something right now to try to get it uploaded to StreamYard, because this is going to be mind blowing about the mosquito situation. I don't know how many people have seen this or not. Hold on. I'm trying to pull it up here. Give me just one moment. You guys can go ahead and just talk, but like I was saying, I'm hearing from doctors, I'm hearing from school teachers, I've heard from people in comment section that work at nursing homes and all this stuff, that there has been like an explosion of this sickness that's taking place.
Yeah.
And a lot of people attribute it to, we've talked about this letter looks like a number, and then the dash, and then, that it could have to deal with the frequencies that come from that. And I actually am making an edited video. I have to edit it. Like, I have to put it together, and it's got to go up on Rumble. Like, it is just too controversial for that. But I am in the process of making that. That's something that I'm going to do. But it's just it's obvious that something is going on. Do I know what is going on? Not exactly, but it's just, we're right on the cusp of something here. Right on the cusp of something big.
And then it ties also into, we've talked about this before. I know you and I have talked about it. I know Bob Barber has talked about it. The Deagle report. This report that came out a few years ago projecting a drastic population decline in some of the Western nations, America, England, Ireland, the Western type nations. And, this could be nothing. It is just a prediction. It is, it's, that's not saying it's going to happen exactly the way the report predicts, but why put it out there? Why are they projecting this? What are they basing this on? And so it just does make you wonder if there's something that they know that has the potential of, let's just say it's dormant, but could be triggered, and they know if they pull the trigger, what it will do to people. And they know when they plan on pulling the trigger, which is again, so again, it's just, we don't know, this is just speculation on my behalf. But it's just, we can read things and we can speculate a little bit because we have reason to speculate.
Yeah.
That's the problem, is they've given us reason to speculate.
The big thing that I kind of am looking at, like kind of more recently, is what if this doesn't have to do with something and it has to deal with the release of these mosquitoes that had
Right.
kind of taken place? And we saw this Triple E stuff and all this stuff take place in Massachusetts, I think Vermont, and also New York. You know, they were spraying and
Mhm.
fogging the streets and all that stuff. And I want to show this clip real quick. This was on the Bill Gates YouTube. Like, this is Bill Gates that you're about to see. Dude, check this video out real quick. It's only 55 seconds, dude.
Yep.
This is mind-blowing. Dude, isn't that crazy?
That is just creepy as creepy can get, man.
That's on the what? The Gates website? What
That
was
was
that?
on the Bill Gates YouTube, bro.
Yeah,
Oh, come
that's about as creepy
Yeah.
as creepy can get, you know.
Yeah.
That's certainly very telling, isn't it?
Yes,
Yeah,
it
and
is.
then like after we have this whole big thing that happens with all this mosquito mumbo jumbo, you know what I mean, on the East Coast and different places like that, all of a sudden here that now this time, you know, what if something was administered like that? It incubated for a long time and then all of a sudden is becoming a thing now. You know, I don't know, man. I don't know, dude. But regardless, whether it's that or whether it's this, it's manipulated. It's contrived.
Mm.
And you know, I think that even if it is this, and I got to keep showing that because I'm not going to say this. That's one thing I got to avoid. But even if it is that, if it's a volume level on that, a frequency level, they keep turning up. It's going to keep turning. They're going to keep turning it up and keep turning it up and keep turning it up if they want something to happen. And like I was showing people, and we, like me and Aaron talked about last live, is that, you know, during this scenario, all right, they knew something was going on, withheld the information, and thought that, oh, just the seasonal flu, you know, things that they put in place to kind of like, oh, hey, wash your hands, cover your cough, things like that would be enough to take care of it. But then during Thanksgiving and Black Friday, it begins to spread and ends up in like 26 states in the scenario. And then it kind of leads on into Christmas, New Year's time, and then becomes a global problem. And that's exactly how it happened in 2019, wasn't it, Aaron?
Yep.
Oh yeah, yeah, yep. So like well, Derek just said it. If you don't know your history, it's doomed to repeat itself. So
Absolutely.
yeah, and Trump was a part of all that kind of,
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know.
Was it to pacify patriots? What are your thinks on? What are your thinks? Listen, making up words here. What are your thoughts on that, Aaron and Derek? I'll just go with Aaron first.
Well, what'd you say, Patriot? What?
Well, what if it was it? Do you think Trump was put in on purpose both times to pacify patriots, to keep them from kind of, you know, oh, I'm not going to deal with this, you know, and kind of what happened on, you know, January, you know, the number of this, you know what I'm saying? You know, to keep that from happening nationwide because of a lockdown, to have someone like that in to kind of squelch that and prohibit that from happening, you know, because they would trust him more. You see what I'm saying? And it would probably be the right. What do you know, that would kind of explode in that sort of a situation? I mean, I hear that all the time where people are like, well, not again. It ain't happening again. What are your thoughts on that, Aaron and Derek? We'll start with Aaron first.
I mean, it almost sounds like controlled opposition is what you're kind of hinting at. And I wouldn't disagree with that kind of idea. Like I said, I think every political leader is a tool at this point. And if we're very close to the rapture, then my concern is deception. at a global scale, at a national scale and a global scale. So I think we always have to just put our nose to the floor, so to speak, put our ear to the ground, and like, okay, so what are they really trying to do here? What are they really trying to say? And what's the end game here? It'd be wonderful if we had political leaders that would say, hey, Jesus Christ is Lord and Savior, and the Bible is true, and, things like that. But we're not really hearing that from political leaders. In fact, the Mexican leader, wasn't she worshiping some weird goddess about a month ago? And they were like pledging pagan. They were doing pagan worshiping on the stage. Were they not? Like, that's the kind of stuff that we got to be aware of. Like, and this is Mexico. We got Canada, we got Mexico, we got the U.S. I mean, Mexico's doing that, so I wouldn't be surprised if Canada does something silly soon and starts to do pagan worship stuff. I mean, they're doing it at the Olympics and world events, and it's like, we got to have our deception radar on big time right now. So I guess that's my 2 cents.
No, absolutely. What do you think, Derek?
Well, I've got some thoughts on this. I think we're only presented with one of two options, are we not? Okay. Option number one is he's controlled opposition. He's been put there by the powers that be. Option number two is he's gone in with a pure heart and he's going to try to fight the good fight. So let's look at both of these options and see what the outcomes are. And that's why, again, I don't like to be Mr. Blackpill, but I'm just telling you the options are not good either way, and here's why. Yeah. So option number one, if he's just controlled opposition and he's in with the one worlders, and he's, like you said, he's just been put out there to pacify, the masses from rising up, So that means that he's in with all the one worlders who are like Bill Gates, who are. Here's the thing. I did a video on Rumble a while back, and I have toyed with bringing it over to YouTube, but I really don't know if I can. I think I might get a strike or just have it deleted, because I did a video on the Great Deception and how, we often, a lot of us, we look towards like the alien thing, and like maybe when the rapture happens, that'll be the Great Deception. But I think we're living through a Great Deception right now at this very moment, and it's what's called Malthusianism. There was a Reverend Thomas Malthus who basically came up with this doctrine that, the earth was too small, that the population was growing too fast. We're never going to, and that's where you get things like the Georgia Guidestones and all these people that want to reduce population, because they're all dead afraid that we're going to somehow outgrow the earth, and that, that there's too many of us. This is a great deception. This is why, and this is why I say I did a whole video on it. I'm afraid to bring it over here because it really does explain everything. It explains everything from pregnancies that are terminated to, the current thing where men like to dress as women and women as men, because this way they don't, they don't procreate. It covers so many things. And again, that's as much as I'll say about that. So on one hand, if he's in with the one worlders, we've got that. We're just fighting upstream because they want to reduce the population. And if Trump's the guy to keep everybody in line, then, that's that. Now, let's look at it on the other hand. Let's look at it on the positive side. Let's say that he's going in with a pure heart, that he really wants to fight the good fight, okay? This is the great danger in that. And I have to give credit to a guy named Steve Deace. He does a radio show on Blaze Network, which is run by Glenn Beck. And this guy, I really wish he was on the same page with us eschatology-wise. He doesn't really believe in the rapture, but other than that, he's a smart cookie. I would really recommend anybody to give Steve Deace a listen for a little bit. But what he said, and he goes back to Trump's first term when, the whole 2019, 2020 thing rolled around that kind of turned the world upside down. And what he compared it to was a movie called The Cleansing Hour. This is a horror movie. I don't know that I would recommend everybody to watch it. I did watch it because I was interested. Josh, do you know? Huh?
You're a watchman. You have to.
Well, I heard him talk about it, and I wanted to see so here's what the movie is about. Basically, it's about a guy who's on YouTube, and he's a fake priest. He goes around doing fake exorcisms on YouTube, and that's how he's monetizing and stuff. And the whole premise of the movie is he's this big faker behind the scenes. Well, one day a real demon shows up, and it's like, oops, what do I do now? Because I'm not used to a real demonic force. I'm used to people playing the role and faking it. Okay. Right. And so what he compared, this is why it was so brilliant, because what Steve Deace said was, he's like, this is like Trump in his first term. He's Mr. Art of the Deal. He's got everything under control. He knows how to negotiate. He's wheeling and dealing with this one, wheeling and dealing with that one. I'm going to get this done. I'm going to get that done. And then when the real deal shows up, which was, from the enemy, we're talking about the enemy, the spiritual force behind what happened in 2019, 2020. When the real deal shows up, he doesn't know what to do with that. He's no match for the real deal. He's no match for Satan. And the reason why, and this is why, we wrestled so much with this election, and this is why so many people would say, well, again, I was criticized for my wrestling with it, and it's like, well, we're not electing a pastor, and we don't care about somebody's morals, we just care about his leadership. Morals matter, because when the devil comes up against you, unless you know how to put on that full armor of God, you're going to squeal like a girl and run. And that's exactly what Trump did. I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
That's exactly what Trump did in 2019, 2020. He ceded his presidency to all the bureaucrats.
Yep.
And let them run the country.
For him.
And because he ran like a girl, because he didn't know evil when he saw it. And the point I'm bringing out, and this is why I say we have to watch and be careful, because this could easily happen again. And it might not happen 3 years into his term. It might happen year number 1. This stuff you're talking about right now, he could go into the Oval Office and be faced with a darkness like he's never seen before. And if he's not a born-again Christian, he's not going to know what to do with it. You or me or Aaron, we would at least stand. We would stand in the power and authority of Jesus Christ and in his Holy Spirit. We would stand. I know each one of you would, as would I. We would stand. We're not going to turn and run from the forces of evil. We run into evil because that's what we do. That's what we sacrifice our lives, because that's what our Messiah did for us. But if you're not truly born again,
I'm going to interrupt you for a second.
Go ahead.
The Holy Spirit is all over you, bro. I mean, I feel it in my studio. What you're saying, dude, it resonates with me, dude. That's exactly what happened to Trump this first time. Bro, you're on point. Please.
And that's honestly, that's why, like I said, we need to pray for him. I want to see Trump on fire. After what happened to him, after he took that bullet to the backside of his ear and walked away from it, man, I wanted to see him on fire for Jesus. I wanted him to be out there saying, not just, oh yeah, God saved me. Yeah, God did save you, but that God's name is Jesus Christ. He came and lived as a man. He loved you enough, Donald Trump, that he was willing to stretch out his arms, put 2 big spikes through his hands, and hang there and bleed and asphyxiate and die for you, Donald Trump. That's why every chance I get, I'm talking about Jesus. That was the God that saved me. Amen. So, this is why I say about Trump, and I'm not trying to judge him, but I want to see him on fire. If he's going to do this, I want to see him on fire, because that's the only way he's going to get through it. Otherwise, he's going to get put through the fire.
Yeah.
And he'll be weighed in the scales and once again found wanting like he was in his first term. That's, again, I don't want to blackpill anybody. I'm just telling you the reality. We need to be prayed up as saints. We need to pray him up. And we just have to I trust that if things get really ugly, that the rapture is going to happen. I really think we're closer now than we ever have been. And I even see, and this is just a speculation, but, all this stuff like with the Department of Government Efficiency, with Elon Musk, with this talk of eliminating the IRS and putting in tariffs and stuff like that. Do you realize how easy it would be to sneak in a mark of the beast to the masses, saying, oh yeah, well, this is the only way to fix the economy. We're going to knock out the IRS. You just have to take this digital currency and you have to take this mark, but you won't have to worry about the IRS. You know how many people would fall for it just on that, just to be like, oh yeah, the IRS. Okay. If you don't know any better, you're going to fall for it, So,
wow, Derek, what you said a bit ago, even just what you are saying, it really resonates with me, and I really feel something as you're saying it. That whole idea of, playing games, you're a tough guy, all up until the enemy's right at your doorstep. And you are faced with an evil that you weren't prepared to face.
That's right.
And you were right. You're exactly right. That is exactly what Trump did. He allowed everybody to run the government for him, and he stood back and was the poster boy.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Right. And did a couple of good things here and there, and a lot of people bet on that, man. I'll be honest with you. I'm not saying I feel kind of, deceived by, voting for him. But, man, I wish you would have said that a whole long time ago, man, to be honest with you, because that's exactly what happened. And it didn't really click until just now as you're saying that. And, what if that is to happen again? He very well could have been put in a position to set America up for a lockdown, to get it all in order and to shuffle the cards the right way, set the dominoes up, however, whatever you want to call it, get the chessboard set and ready to rock and roll. But, even just a couple of months ago, they were spoon feeding us a semi lockdown. With Massachusetts, I think it was Vermont, I think New York was doing stuff. They're like, be in your homes because we're going to be spraying all night. You know what I'm saying? That's a form of a lockdown. They are preparing people for another lockdown. They were at least on the East Coast, and also there's a few counties in California where they already have mask mandates put into place. I actually have a little video that I want to show people because sometimes people don't believe the messenger and sometimes they'd rather listen to the news. This is 2 minutes and 28 seconds. If you need to take a quick break, you can go ahead and do that. But I want to show this clip. Check this out.
Face masks are back if you want to enter a healthcare facility in most of the Bay Area. All Bay Area counties except Marin and Solano counties are now requiring people entering patient care areas to wear masks for the next 5 months. In Contra Costa County, it will be for 6 months. NBC Bay Area's Robert Honda joins us from a hospital in San Jose to show us how people are reacting.
We got very mixed reaction from people on whether they're still used to wearing masks from before or if it bothers them even to this day. But now, masks are required in all healthcare facilities throughout most of the Bay Area, regardless how anyone feels about it.
Put your mask on, please.
Face masks were being distributed at the entrance of Santa Clara Valley Medical Center to everyone entering, taking some visitors by surprise. The public health order extends to healthcare facilities where patients are being cared for in Santa Clara, San Francisco, Alameda, San Mateo, Napa, and Contra Costa counties, with some slight differences in each. Similar to an order last year, this mask mandate will run from November 1st through March or April in Contra Costa, basically flu season.
Bringing back the masking just around flu season is actually really smart because, this is when the viruses comes back. Everybody's indoors more, and we just don't want to pass on the virus to other, vulnerable populations, especially in the hospital.
Dr. Koo says it's also for the benefit of the staff, since the hospital lost a lot of workers to illness and retirement during COVID.
And it's been really challenging to get the staff back, and so being able to protect our own staff is also very important.
Visitors we talked to were cooperative, some more reluctant than others.
I think it's essential because there are so many things going around in the hospital, especially, that you need to wear a mask because no telling what you can catch.
I don't really see the importance of it at this point. I don't know if it made a big difference during COVID when everybody was wearing them or not, but if it makes everybody feel more comfortable, then I guess that's why we do it.
We actually saw very few people here raising any kind of objection to wearing a mask, and health officials say they hope maybe that attitude will lead to more people using masks and taking precautions in other settings, not just healthcare facilities. In San Jose, Robert Honda, NBC Bay Area News.
Okay.
You want to know why they weren't refusing it? Is because the first 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022 was the dress rehearsal. They were getting you ready for what's the next step that's ahead. They have to control the population. They have to isolate the population.
Absolutely.
They have to section it off. Agenda 2030. It's what it's all about. 15-minute cities. That's what everything is about. And they've been spoon feeding us. This is exactly how they did it last time. And California was leading the pack last time. The Bay Area was leading the pack last time. Like I've talked about before about the similarities between the year 2020 and the year 2024. It's just uncanny, bro. It's just uncanny. There's so many. And then now we're seeing all of this and the sickness. It's uncanny. The mask mandates, it's uncanny. Not even just in California, but health care facilities in Texas. People are going to argue with me, but I've seen the posts and everything where they got like the pictures. I wish I could have uploaded it in time, but I'll tell you right now that even in Texas, there are healthcare facilities mandating the masks again. And I'm telling you, they don't do. I got to be careful how I say this. Got to throw some words in there in between, but they don't do diddly squat. They don't.
No.
Anybody who calls it a chin diaper or a face diaper is correct. That's all it is. It's an act of submission.
It's just like, look, you could take a piece of chain link fence, if you wanted to cut a small piece of chain link fence out, you could take a piece of chain link fence and stick it in front of your face and then have somebody throw sand at you. And it might stop some of the sand, but it's not going to stop all of the sand. That's basically the same principle here.
Absolutely.
I'm going to say one thing and then I got to drop off and run. And but I'm going to just close with this. And that is, all I'm going to say is, think for yourself. put everything through the lens of the Bible. Let the Bible be your lens. You know, when those things came out, the mask mandates came out and everything, I never would wear. I wouldn't wear one at all. You know, that was my choice.
Be careful.
Well, you know, that was my choice. That was
Yeah.
my belief, you know, and like I said, the only time I had to wear one, I had to wear one when my mom was in the hospital. You know, she was dying of this thing. I had to wear one then. But you know,
in order to go shopping, you had to. Otherwise, you'd be arrested if you went in. Because it's
right.
private property. I have a buddy who's in law enforcement, and he says, you know, he's like, it's private property. If you don't do what they say, they ask you to leave. If you don't leave, you can be arrested.
And you have to be respectful of the property and the places where you go. But I guess the point that I'm just trying to make is, just don't fall into the propaganda. Think for yourself. Think for yourself. If you have to wear one because, like you said, that's the property that you're going on, you have to be respectful of that. But that doesn't mean you have to be afraid. You know, fear is the worst thing in the world. Fear so easily manipulates people and controls people. You know, just don't. God has not given us a spirit of fear. Think for yourself. Use the Bible as the focus, the lens through which you can, you know, you talk about a filter, you know, filtering out garbage. The Bible's the best mask there is, you know. The Bible will filter out a lot of this garbage. So just think for yourself. Don't let the propaganda frighten you. You know, I mean, do your own research. You know, if you hear something on the news that sounds like it might be dangerous, okay, do some research. Don't just believe what you're being spoon-fed, because it's, you know, it's not always, you know. But anyway, I got to run, guys. I'm glad I just saw Aaron come back on perfect timing, because I didn't want to leave Brother Josh here just holding the bag, and I thought I'm going to try to talk until Aaron comes back, so at least you got somebody to talk to. But
I go at it alone all the time. But real quick, before you get off of here, everybody, if you have not subscribed to Bible Study with Derek, it is an absolute awesome channel. He does Bible studies every Friday. Am I correct? Every Friday.
Every Friday night.
And he does a live. He answers questions. You know, you can hop in there if you got any of your Bible questions that you're struggling with, figured out the answer. This dude is a wealth of knowledge, and he's been a blessing to me, my family, and my life. I absolutely love him and his family. And dude, me and this dude are two peas in a pod. So I really need, if you love my channel and you love me, please go over and subscribe to Bible Study with Derek. It says, and you can see right at the bottom there of his thing, it says at Bible Study with Derek. And then same with Aaron at God a Minute. Love this dude. This dude has been awesome, man. Me and him are just starting to become friends, dude. We click so well, dude. And if you guys care about me, you care about my brothers as well. And please go subscribe. We need to see their numbers come up, man. We do.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that, brother. I do. So thank you for having me on. You know, I appreciate having the chance to talk a little bit with you. And sorry I couldn't stay longer. Like I said, I'm kind of have a few more chores to get to, you know, nightly chores on the farm. And then I'm going over to Shane's Black Swan tonight, too. So I got to make that fit in. So I'm kind of in between. But, I feel the same.
Send me an invite and I'll hop in over there.
Yeah, I'll tell if you haven't got one, I'll tell him, and maybe he'll shoot one your way. You know, like I said, I feel the same way about you. You know, you're both beloved brothers in the Lord, and that's why, like I said, I wanted to at least come spend a little bit of time with you, even if it was just a little time, and I'm glad I got to. So I'll see you guys a little later. We'll catch you on the next one.
God bless you, brother.
God bless everybody.
See you, Derek.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
And then there were two.
Yeah. I had to go do some dinner stuff. I had to go throw some stuff in the oven. So
totally okay, man.
I can't stay much longer either. But I'm going to be targeting Wednesdays and Thursdays live streams as well. So I used to do it every Thursday for like 2 years, but so I'll be doing that. So we're going to talk about some world stuff. I'm going to try and get some people on that can talk about some world politics. Well, similar to these kinds of things, but because I got my nose in the book a lot more than anything else. So my focus is understanding the Bible and things like that. So, I mean, I should probably get Derek on the channel too.
Yeah.
And do some
Derek's awesome.
Bible studies and prophecies stuff. And
I do Bible studies too, but it just recently it's been this thing, me trying to keep everybody's heads on a swivel about this sickness stuff. I pray it comes to nothing, but we don't know what could happen. But I absolutely love reading the Bible as well. And I can keep up with you and talk with you about it, so I'm reading it,
Oh, for sure. Actually, are you available this coming Wednesday?
Absolutely.
9 p.m. EST?
Probably will be okay. Yeah.
Okay.
If you could just send me a link or send me an email with the day and the time, and then I'll write it down. You know what I mean? And we can.
Sounds good. Well, yeah, I mean, so I'll do a live stream Wednesday, 9 p.m. and there's already a sister in Christ that's signed up for that. And so maybe if there's 2 or 3, panelists or whatever, that's great. That we can get a conversation going about certain things.
Absolutely.
And that'd be good. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Anything else before I bow out too?
I got a few things to still talk about, but I can go at it alone, man.
Okay, let's do that. Maybe I should bounce out. So, well, guys, at the end of the day, Jesus is coming whenever he's coming.
Amen.
I'm preaching to the choir when I say you got to believe in Jesus. I mean, 95% of the people that are watching probably already understand all that, but it's Jesus Christ plus nothing, and he's the only way, the truth, and the life. And I stand on that. John 14:6 is my favorite verse that I always point people towards. And God bless, and hang out with Josh, and see you on Wednesday if you want to come out and do an extended kind of a live stream similar to this with a few other people.
Yeah, be cool, man. I definitely do it. Well, like I said, if you haven't subscribed to Aaron at Got a Minute, I love this brother, man. Please go over to his channel and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and become a part of what he's doing. Dude, he loves digging down into the Bible, man, and it's a good thing. And I think you'll be blessed by joining his channel. It'd mean a lot to me if you did. It really would.
Thanks, bro.
Yeah.
You rock, man. Love you.
Love you,
Have
man.
an awesome night, man. Thank you for the invite. Talk soon.
Adios.
Okay, bye.
So we're going to continue on. All right. I'm going to go over a few more things here that I wanted to talk about. Like I was talking about earlier about some of the schools where these kids, they're getting sick. It's becoming a thing. We have friends, me and my wife have a friend that is a school teacher, and she's saying that there's definitely an uptick of this stuff at the school. I got another friend that is involved with his kids' schools, and he's saying that the whole entire school is just running rampant in this situation. And so it's hitting the kids hard. But something that I have to remind people is, and this is something you need to look at as a parent if you're dealing with this kind of stuff, is if they have any of these trees, okay, we'll call them trees, any of these trees around the school. All right. There's actually a clip that I want to show you real quick. And here it is, because it's about, what's going on with the schools. And this is about what was going on, I think, in July. But it's ramping up. It's ramping up, and it's continuing to ramp up. Check this video out.
Now, the latest news, updates, and more from the world of health and medicine. This is Medical Minutes, brought to you by Community Health Network.
School districts say they're seeing a sharp increase in walking pneumonia cases and are sounding the alarm to parents. News 8's Kyla Russell breaks down exactly what it is and how to make sure that your family is protected.
Walking pneumonia doesn't typically present as severely as pneumonia, so much so that patients can continue walking and going about their day-to-day lives. But its impact can be severe, especially in school kids.
That require admissions to intensive care units. Children die, adults die of it. Sometimes it invades the brain and it can cause an infection there.
This is a message sent out by one Indy school urging parents to contact a doctor sooner rather than later if their child presents symptoms of walking pneumonia. About 2 million people are diagnosed with the disease each year, but this year is different.
But what we've seen this summer, starting in July, August, was an explosion in the number of cases.
Riley infectious disease doctor John Christensen has seen that explosion firsthand here in central Indiana. He says the symptoms are common, typically starting with a sore throat, cough, or chest pain.
A bacterial infection caused by a bacteria called mycoplasma.
It typically impacts teenagers most, but what's not typical? A surge among kids born during lockdown. The CDC says kids 2 to 4 saw a 6% increase in diagnoses between April and October.
Saw a rebound after COVID.
During lockdown, people were wearing masks, staying home, and were not at school and work.
And so what happened was a lot of people who could have acquired an infection around that time didn't. So now they're all susceptible. So now you bring in a new germ or an old germ into an environment and it spreads like wildfire.
As the holidays roll around and gatherings begin, Dr. Christensen is heeding a similar call to area schools, especially in severe cases.
And that's when you need to take them to their healthcare professional that they haven't seen, and in some cases get the x-rays.
In addition to making sure you contact your doctor, physicians say it's important you make sure your family is up to date on all of their vaccinations.
This
Isn't that funny how they got to mention that? They got to tell you to go get this thing. You know what I mean? Every time, like that has anything to do with it. It doesn't. There ain't none of that that's going to help you from that. It's a big sham. But I can't help but mention that they have this kind of stuff. This would be the number 5 here. They have this kind of stuff around those schools, those trees, we'll call them. You know what I mean? And it goes all the way back to those trees go all the way back to what's called a Gwyn Tower, and that was established during World War II. And they would use this stuff to target people. There would be people that were enemies of the state, and they would use this weaponry to target people. So I would definitely look into that. The Gwyn Towers. I think that there is an old conspiracy theory with Jesse Ventura video. Even though I'm not a big fan of Jesse Ventura, especially after he promoted Kamala Harris. But there's a conspiracy theory with Jesse Ventura episode where he was, researching, technology that invades the mind. I think it's called Brain Invaders was the episode. And, he goes through and he's talking to all these targeted individuals and the frequencies they deal with and things like that. It's rather interesting. And they bring up the Gwyn Towers and that, and there's some information in there. I can't just show it to you here on YouTube. I'd get a strike. But they established all that in World War II. And it's just been incrementalized more and more. You got the 3G and the 4G and then the other stuff that I'm not going to say. But it all leads into the stuff that they, do right here. And then, like I said, we had someone in the live chat earlier mention a compound that's put into this that gets into you and it can reassemble into circuitry. All right. And it actually is swayed by frequency. So I'm going to leave it at that. But I think that everybody should do their research. And I think I'll talk on it on another live, not this live, but I'll talk about the Internet of Bodies and what the Internet of Bodies consists of and how they'll use that compound and get that into people. And they'll use this stuff in order to, cause everything to become a collective hive mindset, if you know what I'm trying to say, because they're doing it. They're pulling it off. And I've talked about how Benjamin Krem with Share International, this group that used to, or not, Benjamin Krem's dead now, but this group, Share International, that, believes that they're in contact with this world teacher. All right, it's very new age, very new agey. They call him Maitreya, though. And Benjamin Krem would talk about how, everybody over the age of 14, which I think is pretty close to the age of accountability. But he said everybody over the age of 14 would hear this world teacher inwardly and they would feel him. You know what I'm saying? And I think they're going to use, the trees, if you know what I'm talking about, the electric trees and, pertaining to like Gwyn Towers, but more modernized ones. And in this whole Internet of Bodies and the compound they put in this and be able to get that into people. I think it's all going to take part in merging together and creating this strong delusion that God talks about, that everybody that is in the Great Tribulation will be given over to a strong delusion. And I think that has a lot to do with it. I really do. And, but I'm telling you, folks, something, it seems to me, all right, actually, believe it or not, SK Ellis, you picked a perfect time to say, watch the movie Cell. All right, I actually have the trailer for you that I was going to show you. And I think that I'll end the live with that trailer. So I'll show everybody what that is. Very interesting movie. It's technically a horror movie. It's not like super crazy or anything like that, but it's definitely a lot of predictive programming. I think it's funny that SK Ellis, commented in the live chat, watch the movie Cell. Wow, you know what I mean? And I'm actually had planned to show you that trailer. I mean, talking about confirmation, but there's a lot of people in the UK that are actually burning this stuff down. All right. And I'm telling you, you could go and you could look up, everything and go to social media and you can find where they're burning the trees down that pertain to this stuff. You know what I mean? And they're cutting them down. They got these blade saws that can cut through metal, and they're going around the edge of this thing and toppling them over. I mean, they're serious about it over in Europe, man, getting rid of that stuff. And I would definitely encourage you to go see how they're doing it. You know what I'm saying? But I'm telling you, folks, there's something that's here that's absolutely going to fill in the churches. It's going to fill the pews. The live chats are going to become more full. People are going to flock to the YouTubes that are warning them, that are preaching the gospel, you know what I'm saying, that are talking about Jesus, talking about how to get saved, getting people on the ark, getting people ready to go home to be with Jesus. You know what I mean? And like I said, the churches are going to fill up because every time crazy things happen, all right, every time crazy things happen, I mean, people flock to the churches. They flock to YouTube because there's all these questions that they want answered. And I'm telling you that God is going to bring in this last harvest, man. God is going to bring in this last harvest. I'm telling you, he is. And he's not lacking in anything that he's doing. And he's patient and long-suffering for the fruit of the earth, that none should perish. All right. And every day he does wait, all right, is more souls that get saved. And I want to say real quick, if you don't know Jesus Christ, and you want to be saved, you want to come to know Jesus as your Lord and Savior, all right, it says in the Bible to confess with your mouth and believe in your heart. So repeat after me. Dear Jesus, please forgive me for all of my sins, knowing and unknowing that I've done. I've sinned against you, Lord. But Jesus, you've gave your life on the cross so that way I could be saved. And I believe in that sacrifice. I believe in that precious blood that you shed on the cross, that would cover me and my sin, and that my sins would be forgiven. And then just repent of your sins. Just speak it out loud. Speak that you believe Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, because he absolutely is. And it says, believe it in your heart. Believe it in your heart. Confess it with your mouth. And at that point in time, you are saved, man. You are saved and you are ushered into the kingdom of heaven. Man, you got a place and a seat in heaven with Jesus when that time comes. And then get you a King James Version Bible. Get you a King James Version Bible. Start to read it and start a prayer life. You know what I mean? There's all sorts of good knowledge in that, and just continue to grow, man. And so I'm telling you, Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. No man can get to heaven but through Jesus. No one can get to the Father but through Jesus. No one can get the Holy Spirit but through Jesus. But once you have Jesus, man, that Holy Spirit comes and he just starts giving you revelation after revelation after revelation after revelation and revelation, man. I'm telling you, he does. And it's like all of a sudden, everything, you begin to start to understand it. And it's God, not you, man. Like everything that happens on this channel, I give God all the glory, the honor, and the praise. It has nothing to do with me. This has everything to do with him. And I'm just trying to warn people. I'm a watchman on the wall. I see something coming. It concerns me. I feel stirred in my spirit to warn people. I want people to be educated. I don't want anybody to perish for lack of knowledge. It says God's people perish for lack of knowledge. I don't want anybody to be taken off guard or be swept away by whatever flood could come our way while we're still here for a short period of time. All right. And I think it's going to lead people to the cross. I really do. Whatever it is, whatever that's coming, whatever the sickness is. I don't know if they even have a name for it yet, but they've been throwing everything at us, bird flu and triple E and the 19 and all this different stuff all at once. They're throwing it at us at once, and it's like this hodgepodge of crazy. And there's absolutely something that's gaining traction. And so it's my duty to be here to warn you guys of what's to come. All right, I'm going to end the live with this movie trailer called Cell. It has everything to deal with this. All right, it has everything to do with this. And I know that they're kind of projecting like this zombie-like stuff, but it shows how it can affect the body, how it can affect things. You see what I'm saying? So I'm going to end it with this. And I love you guys so much. Thank you for joining me and Aaron and Brother Derek for the live today. You guys mean so much to me. I pray blessings over you. I pray blessings over your children. I pray blessings over your family in Jesus' mighty name, that everything you do and everywhere you go and everywhere you are will be absolutely blessed because you love Jesus with all your heart, mind, body, and soul. And I pray that Jesus just has your back in everything that you do, and that there's not one thing that can harm you, not one hair on your head will be harmed. In Jesus' mighty name I pray. Amen. May God bless you all. May he keep you. And please don't forget to go out and change this world in which you live.
Passengers on flight 3598, your gate number has been...
Hi, Dad.
Hey, buddy.
Are you coming home?
Yeah, soon. Gosh.
It's terrorists, right? It's gotta be terrorists.
Don't use your cell phone.
We're gonna survive this. People are gonna die.
You okay?
They act for the good of the group as a whole. They may be the next stage in human evolution. What's happening now is more than temporary anarchy. It's the start of a war.
I want to wipe him out.
It's a suicide mission. You're gonna die. I want to see my son. Fella. You okay?
Do not withhold your mercy from us, O Lord, for troubles without number surround us. May your love and your truth protect us, for here lies the dead, dust of the earth.
Good always conquers evil. I believe that.
Are you coming home? Are you coming home? I just want you to come home.
Johnny's voice.
No, it's not.
I just
You
want
know
you to come
that
home.
is not your son.
I just want you to come
Clay,
home.
no!